sidewalks to facilitate the ease of movement for persons with disabilities and senior citizens. And most importantly, we will be completing all the Operation Pride projects that were left unfinished, which this government has ignored in the last 9 years. Our goal, Mr. Speaker, our goal is to bring dignified housing and to create secure, organized communities out of these informal settlements. We will complete the outstanding infrastructure and bring land titling services to vulnerable residents in informal settlements with reasonable and affordable terms of cost reimbursement under the Portia program. And we will bring a mix of sources to fund the program. We'll be using funds from the Consolidated Fund, subject to the fiscal rules. We will be using some of the profits from the low-income houses built by HAJ, and I will ensure that the Portia plan is supported by a robust and transparent governance and accountability structure. I will ensure that. And then, Mr. Speaker, we will pursue a housing strategy involving joint ventures and partnerships with private developers. We will crowd in private investment in the underserved market segments by a range of creative incentives to make the return on investment sufficiently attractive to private developers. And we will share more information on that at an appropriate time. Mr. Speaker, we have developed these strategies because something transformational is required in affordable housing.
Wagwan, Mr. Pong, big up yourself.
Transformation by repurposing the NHT to focus on its core mandate.
Mr. Pong, Wagwan, Berridale. You're listening to the leader of opposition giving his presentation in the budget debate in the Jamaica House of Representatives. Welcome to the Collin Bell Show.
Mr. Speaker, I turn to the issue of road maintenance. Jamaica's road infrastructure is in a crisis, with systemic failures due to inadequate maintenance, underfunding, political interference, and a lack of technical oversight. This has been compounded by dissolving the Road Maintenance Fund in 2017 under this government. We do not accept the assertion that climate change is the cause of the deplorable road conditions across Jamaica. The problem is the lack of a systematic approach to road maintenance, and in particular routine maintenance by competent road contractors who are held accountable for the work they are paid to do. This failure is worsened by things like a lack of proper drainage, the use of poor quality materials like we have seen on the South Coast Highway from Harbour View to Moran Bay, and incompetent construction techniques in some instances. Mr. Speaker, the consequences of poor road conditions include increased vehicle repair costs, longer travel times, increased cost of travel, declining public transport systems, reduced national productivity, and rising road fatalities linked to substandard infrastructure. The National Road Safety Council has noted the disturbing increase in road fatalities in Jamaica. For the period 2014 to 2017, the average road fatalities in Jamaica were about 350 people per year. That's too high. But this has escalated since then to well over 400 and even 450 fatalities for the year, directly linking substandard road conditions to the increase in accidents and fatalities. The nation remembers a shocking newspaper story of a man who apparently drowned in a pothole. Mr. Speaker, we cannot in good conscience accept such preventable tragedies as the new normal. The state of Jamaica's roads are undoubtedly the worst that they have been in living memory. The nation's potholes have become a symbol of failure of this government's prosperity promise. After 9 years of glaring neglect, government initiatives like REACH. After 9 years of glaring neglect, government initiatives like REACH and SPARK are in reality just temporary and inadequate fixes. Indeed, the major project SPARK will only address, I believe, 4% of the total road network. But what about the other 96% of the road network that serves the families in rural communities? What about the roads that serve the yam and banana farmer in Muirhouse, St. Anna, and the coffee farmers in Landui in St. Thomas? Mr. Speaker, it is apparent that the National Works Agency is overwhelmed and lacks resources, resulting in haphazard patchwork solutions rather than durable repairs. The original intention was for the NWA to be equipped as the nation's leading engineering and implementation agency. That is why it was established. However, it has been reduced to overseeing the occasional bridge program and managing patching works. The state of the road network is really a testimony to inadequate technical oversight, lack of accountability, and a loss of value for money. Technical experts have warned that the NWA is short-staffed and cannot be its own performance monitor and auditor. There is an urgent need for independent oversight, for better planning, and for technological integration to ensure taxpayer funds are effectively spent. Indeed, the sudden announcement of World Bank involvement signals that restructuring and urgent institutional strengthening are overdue. We have listened to the voice of Jamaicans demanding safer and more reliable roads. The next PNP government will introduce a structured reform that includes independent technical oversight, a revival of regional public works teams, the certification of local contractors, all to ensure accountability for the money that is spent on this and long-term sustainability. Mr. Speaker, we will ensure that repairs and routine maintenance are done professionally, consistently and economically. Local teams, supported by training from HART and UTEC and other institutions, will enhance local skills development and ensure higher quality and accountability. We have to bring an end to potholes the size of ponds engulfing main thoroughfares like Spanish Town Road and Howard Cook Boulevard. Regional teams will address these urgent issues and with the assistance of skilled and certified local contractors. Mr. Speaker, we will also move towards a system of independent engineering oversight for major road projects. We will leverage the bright young minds of professionals graduating from UTEC, UE, UCC, HARD, and pair them with the experienced technocrats of the NWA and the municipal corporations and provide a proper technical oversight of road projects. Mr. Speaker, we will put in place a strategic 10-year national road maintenance and rehabilitation plan. It will move away from the reactive patchwork solutions to preventative maintenance and strategic resource allocation, saving billions of dollars over the long term and delivering sustained improvements. With the input of our bright young professionals, we will integrate modern technologies such as AI-driven road condition assessment tools in the management of the maintenance of roads. We will predict road deterioration and recommend precise maintenance interventions, thereby reducing overall costs. Mr. Speaker, a comprehensive drainage program is essential for road longevity. There's no such program, and it has caused persistent flooding and deteriorating roads. We will establish a comprehensive drainage program, working from a detailed list of the priority areas that need urgent attention across the country. We have already compiled that list with expert assistance. Mr. Speaker, we are ready to govern Jamaica. Mr. Speaker, I move to agriculture and food security. Jamaica is blessed with high-quality agricultural crops, for which there is well-established demand and great potential for further growth. But domestic production continues to underperform due to a variety of problems in the local systems of production. The value of food imports has grown by approximately $600 million, 75%, over the past decade. This represents both a threat to food security, but also an opportunity to grow local production. We see a real opportunity for Jamaica to grow local food production. We've established a target of a reduction of the food import bill by 25% over 5 years, 5% per year. This is consistent with the decision regionally of CARICOM to reduce food imports from outside the region by 25% by 2025. We will begin what they should have been ending, and here's how we plan to do it. Mr. Speaker, during the last PNP administration, Minister Roger Clark of blessed memory removed Irish potato from the importation basket. This has been reversed. This has since been reversed under this government. The next PNP government will ensure that we become self-sufficient in Irish potato and onion production again. Our expansion of the school feeding program will benefit local farmers who will provide food grown locally. We will establish special economic zones for agriculture, focusing on export-led production for the crops that Jamaica enjoys a competitive advantage in, such as yam and spices like ginger and turmeric, nutmeg and pimento, as well as our orchard crops, the breadfruits and the mangoes, and of course, medicinal ganja. Mr. Speaker, an agricultural management system will be implemented to track what crops are under production, what their maturity dates are, and what their expected yields are. This will enable a better management of local production and the data-driven control of food imports. Yes. An app will be put out there for farmers to use and keep them directly in touch with buyers in the trade, empowering our farmers. That's right. Yes. Mr. Speaker, we will provide a dedicated source of financial support for local food production by establishing an agricultural development fund. We will fund it from the existing import taxes on food. For example, an earmarked allocation of 1% of current food imports would raise approximately $2.5 billion per annum for that fund. Our vision is to provide much needed assistance for local farmers in relation to essential inputs like tools, equipment and machinery, water storage and irrigation systems, and to help them with land preparation and to produce storage facilities and access to finance. This allocation of existing resources to a fund for agriculture is justified, since much of the imported food benefits from substantial subsidies in the exporting countries. Food imports also sometimes adversely affect the local market, hurting local farmers who are already producing these crops. It happens from time to time. Mr. Speaker, the fund will be instrumental in reducing post-harvest losses from 30%, which is where it is now, and we target to bring those losses to no more than 20% by the end of our first term. It will also enable the increase in irrigation from the existing 12% of arable lands, and our target is to try and get this up to at least 25%.
Hey, good evening and welcome. Just want to say welcome to all the people on Caribbean Radio HD. Good evening and welcome. We're listening to the opposition leader. He's on his feet now, live in the parliament, right here in Jamaica, giving his contribution to the budget debate. Let me say, blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the ways of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law do we meditate day and night. For we shall be like trees planted by rivers of water, that bringeth forth our fruit in our season. Our leaves shall not wither, and whatsoever we do shall prosper. We're going back to Mark Golding in the parliament.
Repairing farm roads to enable our farmers to access the farms and transport their produce to market. Engaging private sector, major private sector players in poultry, agro-processing, milk and livestock production to create an enabling environment that they require so that they can expand their already very significant contribution to the sector. Strengthening the arrangements to protect farmers from agricultural theft, including aggressively using the proceeds of Crime Act regime to take the profits out of agricultural crime. People who reap what our farmers sow. And we will revive state support in the areas of marketing and distribution, including having clean markets with suitable facilities so that vendors and customers can conduct their business in dignity. Mr. Speaker, we will facilitate the deepening of linkages between farmers and other sectors in the economy, especially hotels and restaurants, with the aim of significantly increasing the volume of locally produced foods that our hotels purchase. We started it, and we intend to take it to another level. Mr. Speaker, the medical and therapeutic Ganja industry is crying out for regulatory reform. We will overhaul the current system of regulation, which has allowed to stymie the progress of the industry in the last 9 years. And we will ensure the inclusion of small farmers in the industry by reducing the barriers to entry and encouraging linkages with well-capitalized processors. And we will also facilitate home-based production of ganja, integrating with licensed processors. And that is a major change. Mr. Speaker, at the end of the day, there are, I think, 262,000 registered farmers in Jamaica. And 80% of economic activity in rural Jamaica is directly linked to agriculture. We are making our farmers a priority in the next PNP government. Farmers, hold on. Help is on the way. A better life is ahead for the Jamaican farmer. Mr. Speaker, I turn to healthcare. Jamaica's public health system has reached a critical breaking point, marked by equipment failures, industrial action from almost every level of staff, as well as overcrowded and deteriorating facilities. Most recently, we're hearing about mold, which has locked down all 4 operating theaters in the Kingston Public Hospital. If you can't have operation in public, what does that mean? Member for Central St. Mary who knows about these things, it is a terrible situation. The current administration's situation. The current administration's focus on public relations over effective service delivery has led to a near collapse in the public health sector. It is heartbreaking to watch the news or scroll through social media knowing that every week there's another grieving family crying out for change. Mr. Speaker, the debacle of Cornwall Regional Hospital's renovation, which after 7 years has seen its budget explode from 2 billion to over 21 billion and counting, and still nowhere near completion.
Hello. Hello, good evening.
$21 billion and counting, and still nowhere near completion, is a testament to the shambolic project execution of this government. And Mr. Speaker, it is an absolute travesty that no one has been held accountable for the mother of all overruns. It is an unmitigated disgrace. Mr. Speaker, the PNP will undertake a major policy shift in the area of health, from a focus on mega infrastructure projects towards enhancing the delivery of healthcare across Jamaica's clinics and hospitals. Patients go to a hospital or a clinic to be diagnosed and treated, to return home alive and well. Jamaicans are crying out for this lack of basic services. They want it to be fixed, and the next PNP government will fix it. The health system needs to pivot away from primary care. We need to pivot away from secondary care to primary care and focus on extensive screening. 70% of colon cancers in Jamaica are now diagnosed at advanced stages. 70% of colon cancers diagnosed at advanced stages. 90% of breast cancers are detected by a lump over a year after the cancer started. 90%. Prostate cancer is primarily diagnosed after it has already spread. 50% of diabetics and 40% of hypertensive patients have no idea that they have those diseases. And tragically, the entirely preventable cervical cancer, cancer of the cervix in women, continues to claim so many lives of Jamaica's women. We will launch a national screening program to identify the diseases that are the top killers of Jamaicans and treat them early and more effectively. No, your numbers are joke. Joking that. Prevention and early treatment are easier, cheaper, and more effective than late cures. They specialize in gimmicks. We specialize in real solutions to bring lasting change. Treating high blood pressure and diabetes effectively in our clinics will decrease the number of strokes, heart attacks, amputations, and kidney failures that are now overburdening hospitals, burdening livelihoods, and claiming lives. Mr. Speaker, despite of the grand announcements about the rehabilitation of health facilities, multiple operating theatres remain non-functional today at major institutions, including, as I've said, KPH, Cornwall Regional Hospital, St. Anne's Bay, Annotto Bay, and National Chest Hospital. Under the next PNP government, every operating theatre will be refurbished so that each patient instead of waiting years for their surgery. I mean, I've seen in my constituency people waiting for years for a hernia operation, suffering pain. It's a terrible thing, man. They will be able to have their procedures done quickly in well-equipped modern facilities. We will move from the cutting of ribbons today to the cutting of hernias tomorrow. Mr. Speaker, emergency departments are severely overcrowded with patients who could be treated in urgent care facilities and sent home. I repeat, urgent care facilities and sent home. We will create urgent care centers island-wide where patients will have the option of not only seeing a doctor, but having the relevant tests available for diagnosis and treatment. This, along with the expansion of emergency rooms and wards, will lead to shorter waiting times and end with patients having to sleep on benches and floors once and for all. We need to end the indignity that people who need public health care in Jamaica are facing. The country is witnessing healthcare workers at all levels, from support staff to, for the first time in our history, medical consultants, taking industrial action due to poor working conditions, inadequate compensation, and mounting frustration with the system's deficiencies. And you can imagine working in the work environment that I've been describing, how that must be in terms of demoralization. Proper health care cannot be delivered by demoralized staff. The next PNP government will prioritize service delivery over options and gimmicks. We will service delivery over optics and gimmicks. We will ensure that staff are motivated, trained, and retained in the system through incentives such as sponsorships for advanced training, housing provisions, and adequate compensation, which is a goal that all of us have. The current government's approach to outsourcing diagnostic services instead of investing in hospital equipment has resulted in the accumulation of significant debt to private contractors in the health system. This causes service suspensions, because they're not getting the money, which force patients to pay for private services, which they can't afford. We will prioritize the presence of functional radiology equipment in every parish hospital and put an end to hospital patients waiting on ambulances to take them elsewhere for urgent scans. We will ensure that every parish has a CT scan machine. And I would add, the Children's Hospital, which is currently without a CT scan machine, or a working one anyway. Yes, a child in my constituency had to be taken from Children's to KPH because there's no CT scan at Children's to do it, and ended up unfortunately passing. Mr. Speaker, the current administration seems to be averse to maintenance, whether it be roads or hospital equipment. Non-functional equipment is testament to their lack of attention to preventive maintenance. Broken and non-functional ventilators, ambulances, diagnostic equipment, even air conditioning units are usually the reason why critical services are not delivered. Simple things like that. Preventive maintenance is needed to prevent us from ever getting back to this situation again. Regular maintenance of standardized equipment will be a key priority for the next PNP administration. We will strengthen the health facilities maintenance unit through proper staffing and resources. Mr. Speaker, we recognize that there is little consideration for the immense value of volunteers who contribute in the health sector, medical missions from our wonderful diaspora, health fairs, and volunteer work bring healthcare to thousands of Jamaicans annually. We want to recognize the efforts of these good Samaritans who make all this possible, not only by conveying our sincere gratitude, which we do, but by committing to making it easier for them to do the Lord's work. We will build out the services offered to facilitate the delivery of voluntary health care and cut through the bureaucracy that complicates and frustrates health donations. When I say I want to chair that task force dealing with the bureaucracy, it's a serious thing, because there's so many areas where people are frustrated who want to do good things and can't do it because poor systems and old rules and things that are not fit for purpose, and this government is doing nothing about it. For example, the next PNP administration will support health fairs and clinics so that no parent has to pay for school medicals for their child to attend school each September. It's an easy thing to arrange, and we will do it. Our commitment to improving service delivery over the promises of soon done refurbishments will improve healthcare delivery and save countless lives. We put people first, not the ribbon cutting of buildings. Mr. Speaker, I move to the next subject. Jamaican.
If you're just joining us, you're listening to the Leader of Opposition, Honorable Mark Golding, giving his contribution to the budget presentation in the Parliament.
Through a new deal for our workers, greater care of persons with disabilities, a focus on support for senior citizens, building of measures to support MSMEs that were announced by our spokesperson for finance last Thursday. I've moved to the workers of Jamaica. Mr. Speaker, as I think many know, this is the 100th anniversary of the birth of former Prime Minister Michael Manley. Himself a former Labour leader. It is also the 50th anniversary of the establishment of the Industrial Disputes Tribunal under 1975 under his government. It gives access to justice to the workers of Jamaica. Time come to once again move the agenda forward for our workers. Mr. Speaker, contract work is too often used as a loophole which denies workers the basic set of rights and benefits to which they are intended to be entitled under Jamaican law. Some forms of contract work are legitimate and proper. Too often it is used as a way of getting around the architecture of benefits that workers are supposed to enjoy in this country. The abuse of contract work must be brought to an end. This government has merely begun to tinker with the problem in sections of the public sector, but has totally ignored the problem in the wider economy. The next PNP government will pass comprehensive legislation to eliminate abusive contractual arrangements which deny workers their basic employment rights. We will ensure the equal treatment of all genuine workers, regardless of the legal forms their contracts may take. While our guide on the specific measures to be followed will be
Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening.
Hello?
Yes, good evening. Welcome to Caribbean Radio HD.
Good evening, Lynn here. Today is all about sharing some fantastic benefits available for the 2025 open enrollment. You'll be getting food cards, flex cards, and up to two.
While our guide on the specific
call coming in on the 305
will be the International
while we're live.
Organization.
This is live radio.
166 of 1982. We will first go through a fulsome process of consultation with employer groups, our unions, our sectoral groups, and other key stakeholders before we finalize the legislation. At the same time, we will take a balanced approach, encouraging employers to regularize their employment contracts. And how do we do that? Under the Portia Simpson Miller administration, a tax incentive called the Employment Tax Credit, ETC, was introduced. The ETC has proven to be a significant win-win for the government, for businesses, for workers, and the broader economy. It has led to the formalization of more workers as employees, granting access to rights and benefits that previously they didn't have, such as participation in NHT and NIS, formal employment status so they can open bank accounts, and eligibility for loans from regulated lending institutions. The ETC incentive has also boosted corporate tax compliance, business compliance, resulting in substantial increases in government revenue. Currently, the ETC is capped at 30%. Of the tax charged on the company's or traders' income, trading income. As we seek to eliminate the practice of using contract work to exclude from the rights and benefits that are exclude workers from their rights and benefits that formalized employees enjoy, I propose increasing the ETC to 40% of the tax chargeable. This will provide an even stronger incentive to employers to formalize the employment of their workers and provide balance in our quest to ensure fair and equitable employment practices across the board. Mr. Speaker, the system of minimum wage in Jamaica is also in need of an overhaul. No worker should be earning a wage which is below the cost of a basic, decent daily life. In our first year in office, I will task the Planning Institute of Jamaica, the PIOJ, to provide its insights and its research regarding shifting from a minimum wage system to a livable wage system. one which is tied to the actual cost of living and is renewed annually to account for accumulated inflation over the preceding year. The benefits, Mr. Speaker, of families earning a livable wage and living above the poverty line will outweigh any temporary effects on the employment market. And we have seen that repeatedly where people have said increases in the minimum wage, significant increases can't be done because it's going to result in displacement of employment and so on. And the thing settles down shortly thereafter and living standards are raised at the bottom of the society, which is so important. Mr. Speaker, I move to the whole question of worker representation. Some of the industries which are the largest employers of workers in the country are characterized by a lack of worker representation. We are mindful of the series of strikes in the hotel sector last year, for example, when hotel workers took to the streets to seek redress for what they described as low pay and unacceptable working conditions. Mr. Speaker, we will pursue the establishment of joint industrial councils in those industries where there are high levels of employment, but no common minimum standards for the sector, for working conditions, and no union representation. A joint industrial council is a mechanism facilitated by the state that brings employers and employees together to negotiate and settle basic standards relating to pay and conditions of work in that sector. Precedent for it exists. For example, it has been used in the construction industry in Jamaica for many years. The sense of security, fairness, and dignity that this will bring employees in these sectors will promote harmony and stability at the workplace and increase the workers' productivity and their efficiency. Mr. Speaker, I have been close to the community of persons with disabilities for my entire life. My father, Professor John Golding, pioneered Jamaica's only fully integrated rehabilitation center in response to the polio epidemic. That was in the 1950s. It used to be called Mona Rehab, and it was renamed in his honor after he passed in 1996. He also founded the Hope Valley Experimental School, the only institution in Jamaica that is specifically dedicated to educating children with disabilities and able-bodied children together in an integrated environment. And two of my parliamentary colleagues, the one to my left, the shadow spokesman of finance, and the one behind me, our shadow spokesman for transport, are proud graduates of Hope Valley Experimental School. And Mr. Speaker, my late mother, who died in September last year, she started her career as a public servant, but in the 1960s, when she got married and had children, she left that and went to work on an essentially voluntary basis at the rehabilitation center, and she spent the rest of her working life there. So as a child, I was at the center frequently on Christmas Day and on other occasions. So I grew up with persons with disabilities around me, and I felt that that was a very normal way of living. I was very engaged and encouraged when the Portia Simpson Miller administration passed the Disabilities Act in 2014 That act gives effect to Jamaica's obligations under the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And under her leadership, Jamaica stepped proudly forward as the first state to sign it. The World Health Organization estimates that approximately 16% of the country's population has some form of disability, yet less than 1% of the annual budget goes to addressing the needs of this community. Much more really needs to be done to empower persons with disabilities to be fully included in all aspects of national life. And Mr. Speaker, with my family background, I am committed to making this happen. We must always remember that disability respects no one. So we must create a society that is fully inclusive of all our citizens, mindful that any one of us can become disabled at any time. Mr. Speaker, the next PNP government will establish a national disability fund with specific allocations from the consolidated fund dedicated to financing initiatives to empower persons with disabilities. These initiatives will include funding the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities, greater support for the major organizations catering to disability groups, funding assistive technologies for persons with disabilities, improving sidewalks for the use by persons with disabilities, which is a big issue, and supporting the education of persons with disabilities at the tertiary level. Mr. Speaker, and I want to take this opportunity at this moment to extend congratulations to Jamaica's Special Olympics team, who are back from Italy with 3 gold medals, 2 silver medals, and 2 bronze. You have made us proud. Mr. Speaker, our senior citizens constitute a critical mass of our population who spend their working lives helping to build the country. Data shows that seniors comprise over 13% of the population, and the trajectory is that this percentage is growing steadily. We're an aging population. And with an aging population, we must put in place measures to protect this vulnerable group. All too often, Mr. Speaker, I receive complaints from retired public servants of the long delays, sometimes years, before they start receiving the pension to which they're entitled after they retire. And then there are the frequent complaints by senior citizens that their pension payments are not being paid on time. Mr. Speaker, all of this needs to stop. The next PNP government commits to fixing these problems so that retired persons receive their pension entitlements on a timely basis. Mr. Speaker, in 2021, I think it was, I endorsed a motion brought in the Senate by Professor Senator Lloyd Morris calling for legislation to protect senior citizens. That motion received the unanimous approval of the Senate, and a special select committee of the Senate has been established to examine the scope and modalities of the legislation and to make recommendations for action. The next PNP government will enact comprehensive legislation to protect senior citizens. We will also strengthen linkages between key agencies of government that serve senior citizens who need to get life certificates, for example, and other documents. We envisage also the greater use of mobile units to reach more seniors, especially those living in remote areas. Time comes for a new deal for our seniors. Mr. Speaker, there is a time-worn refrain that justice must not only be done, but be seen to be done. Well, here in Jamaica, too many cases occur where neither of that is true. The next PNP government will focus on social justice, constitutional reform, and some other vexing issues to which I next turn. Mr. Speaker, the situation in Jamaica with respect to beach access is unacceptable. Why should this be the country in the Caribbean that denies our people access to most of the country's beaches? It should be a benefit and joy of island life, and we will restore it to our people. We are committed.
Hello. Welcome to Caribbean Radio. Good evening. Hello, good evening.
Evening. How you doing, sir, Bell?
Yeah, man. Good, man. What go on?
Yeah, but there. All right. Me have one question.
No.
All right. No.
Hold on. Hear what me I say. We have listened to the opposition leader budget presentation live right now. When we finish that, then we take your calls. All right?
All right, cool. Blessing.
Yeah, man.
We are committed to implementing a progressive beach access policy to ensure that the public has reasonable access to Jamaica's beaches. We will work with all stakeholders, including communities which have historically used beaches for recreation and fishing, and also with our tourism interests to secure appropriate rights of access for the public to be able to enjoy our beaches. If necessary, we will use legislation to protect the public interest in having reasonable beach access while protecting the legitimate interests of business owners. Mr. Speaker, domestic and gender-based violence are a serious problem in our country. The support system for victims of gender-based violence need to be strengthened, and the cultural attitudes and practices that normalize that behavior need to be re-engineered through public education and in our school system. We will establish support centers in every parish to provide safe havens for the survivors of domestic violence and gender-based violence. And we will move quickly to complete this long outstanding review of the Domestic Violence Act and to implement the recommendations arising from that review so that there's a more effective system for holding abusers to account. Mr. Speaker, the people of Jamaica want justice in many areas of life where the system fails to protect their rights. As it stands, our public defender, that institution, has no power to take action in court to defend those who are not able to defend themselves. We will enact legislation to empower the public defender to bring legal proceedings to defend the rights of vulnerable Jamaicans. And you don't know that to be true and you're Minister of Justice? Shame on you. Shame on you. We will also expand the scope of the Office of Public Defender to become a national human rights institution. As a full-blown national human rights institution, it will monitor and report on Jamaica's performance in respecting the rights of our citizens. Yes. Mr. Speaker, as Minister of Justice, I started that process over a decade ago. It has been abandoned by this government. We will revive it and make it happen. Mr. Speaker, many disputes of a civil nature, such as issues concerning land and dead left property and so on, lead to acts of violence because people cannot afford lawyers to defend their interests. We will expand the legal aid system in partnership with the legal profession to include a range of constitutional and civil matters so that people can get help to access their rights in important areas of their lives, including property matters, estate matters, personal injury cases, and employment cases. We are going to bring rights to the people of Jamaica because they deserve their rights. Mr. Speaker, as a small island developing state, Jamaica depends on the rules of international law for our protection. We will complete the long outstanding process of enacting domestic legislation here in Jamaica to enable our country to accede to the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court. It is a missing element in the current accountability framework for those who abuse power in this country. As Minister of Justice, I started that process over a decade ago. Again, it has been abandoned by this government. We will make it happen. Mr. Speaker, no, he did pass some dog bite legislation. Mr. Speaker, as Minister of Justice, I pioneered Jamaica's transformation in relation to Ganja. It was our intention that apart from eliminating the human rights abuse around personal use of Ganja, which has been meant that over 10,000 persons per year are no longer going through the criminal justice system, no longer getting criminal records, having a right to have their records expunged, etc. But I had also intended that it would be a source of wealth creation and empowerment for small farmers who developed Jamaica's ganja industry through the century of prohibition, and for the Rastafari community and the Maroons who have a special relationship with the herb, either as a sacrament or as a medicinal plant. The process has withered. The process has withered to a standstill under this incompetent and visionless government. We will ensure that small farmers are empowered to participate fully in the medicinal and therapeutic ganja industry. We will also work with the Rastafari community to design an ecosystem for them to reap economic benefits from their herb. And we'll do the same for the Maroons so they can leverage their traditional cultural knowledge of herbal medicine. Time come for the rights of our indigenous people to be respected. Mr. Speaker, the local economy in communities across Jamaica benefits significantly from entertainment events, like a little round robin or a little fish fry. However, there is a lack of clarity as to the required arrangements to keep those events. Permits are too often withheld, set up as well, thank you. Permits are too often withheld in circumstances which lack transparency and appear unfair to residents. I don't know about you, I get so many complaints about that. The system is crying out to be overhauled and put on a clear and equitable footing. In keeping with our belief in consultation with communities in decision-making, we will develop balanced and clear guidelines so that the nighttime entertainment in communities can be put on a clear footing and people know what their rights are and people no longer feel that they are being oppressed by an unfair system. Mr. Speaker, I move to the issue of constitutional reform. The People's National Party is committed to constitutional reform. Our view is that time comes for full decolonization now. And we are happy to see that the former Prime Minister, just retired Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Keith Rowley, has recognized that Trinidad also needs to get on that path. Jamaica must move away from the King of England as our head of state and from the King's colonial-era Privy Council as our highest court. We are a proud and mature independent nation.
If you're just joining us, you're listening to the Leader of Opposition, giving his contribution to the budget presentation live from Garden House, the House of Representatives, Kingston, Jamaica.
Because that will derail the completion of the process. I once again call on the Prime Minister on Thursday to state his party's position on embracing the Caribbean Court of Justice as our final court. Mr. Speaker, the former colonies of the Commonwealth that have succeeded in moving away from the monarchy to achieve full sovereignty, the former colonies of the Commonwealth, have done so by utilizing a tried and proven formula. The formula has two limbs. Limb one, delink from the monarch's court, either before or at the same time as moving away from the monarchy, by faithfully following the path laid down by the Constitution of the country for amending its provisions. Limb two, the political parties of the country finding common ground, as outlined by former Prime Minister Bruce Golding in the opening of the debate on the Charter of Rights in this honorable chamber in 2011. That common ground can only be reached by means of cross-party dialogue, and we are not having that dialogue. We need to have it. The over 40 former colonies of Britain across the world who have moved away from the monarchy have overwhelmingly done so either after or at the same time as moving away from the monarch's court. Yet this government won't tell Jamaica why they don't want to follow this tried and tested formula. By proceeding as if the journey of constitutional reform can be successfully completed unilaterally with the support of one side of the aisle only, they have caused the reform process to become mangled. Their approach has shown an immense lack of care and interest in the interests of the overwhelming majority of Jamaicans who have been denied access to their final court for nearly 200 years. Of all the countries that have successfully transitioned from the Privy Council to an accessible final court of appeal, from Canada, which completed the process in 1935, to St. Lucia in 2023, not one of them has done so through a referendum route. Not one. Why has this been so? Mr. Speaker, there are several reasons. The first and most obvious being that it is futile to hold a referendum on an issue, the possible outcome of which does not lie in our power to implement or continue. If there was a referendum and the vote was to remain tied to the Privy Council, the power to make that happen does not lie with us in Jamaica. It lies with the gift of the United Kingdom, and they can change their position on it at any time. There's another powerful reason. The referendum is in essence, a political exercise, and matters concerning the judicial structure of the country should not be subjected to the harsh and extreme banter of political platforms. It will not serve the administration of justice to subject the highest court to that risk of irreparable damage to its image, reputation, and acceptance. Mr. Speaker, the Jamaican Bar Association in 2015 in a public statement said, and I quote, "We feel strongly that subjecting the process to a political referendum and the vagaries of our adversarial political system will impact on the dignity of the court, which may serve to put the court into disrepute." I end quotes. Mr. Speaker, in a similar vein, noted constitutional scholar Dr. Lloyd Barnett, who advocated a case before the Privy Council, which resulted in a ruling that 2/3 majority is what's required for a constitutional vote to complete the transition to the Caribbean Court of Justice. He has publicly urged the Jamaica Labour Party parliamentarians to follow that correct pathway, the pathway that has been laid down by the Privy Council itself in interpreting our Constitution. Mr. Speaker, there are examples right here in our region of chaotic outcomes to such exercises that were held in 3 sister states, which have a specific constitutional requirement of a referendum for transitioning to the Privy Council. Jamaica, fortunately, has no such requirement, and the Privy Council has said that what it requires is a 2/3 vote in both houses of our parliament. Mr. Speaker, we do not support the route that Jamaica is now on. It is not in keeping with the requirements of our Constitution, as declared by the Privy Council itself in a case brought by the Jamaica Labour Party. We urge the government to abide by the ruling of the highest court in the case that they themselves brought. So how should we proceed, Mr. Speaker? In the debate on the 2011 Charter of Rights, then Prime Minister Bruce Golding, after pointing out the pitfalls of the referendum route, set out the path by which the movement towards full independence must proceed to be successful. And I quote, he said, "What the framers of the Constitution were saying is that, look, there are some things which are so important that it is not a matter of counting up the votes to decide who has won. It is a matter of ensuring that both government and opposition can find common ground." And Mr. Speaker, what should the common ground be? The final advice of former Prime Minister Edward Seaga was to keenly follow the progress of the CCJ for an appreciable amount of time, make an assessment, and then take the next meaningful step. That was what Mr. Seaga advocated for. With 2 decades having passed since the doors of the CCJ were opened back in 2005, there has been sufficient time to assess the performance of the Caribbean Court of Justice. That assessment, Mr. Speaker, that assessment shows that the transition should urgently proceed based on compelling factors. Firstly, no complaint whatsoever has ever been heard coming out of any of the 5 sister territories of the region that have embraced the jurisdiction of the court, the Caribbean Court of Justice, as their final court. That is a powerful testimony of the quality of the CCJ and the benefits of adopting it as a final court. Secondly, the CCJ has received strong international recognition for its secure insulation from political interference and other forms of external interference, and for the efficiency of its operations, and for the excellent quality of its judgments. And Mr. Speaker, thirdly, it is...
I want to take time to tell the people on Caribbean Radio, we're going for a break. We'll be back in a few.
Court to which only the most wealthy have access, to the shameful situation where a Jamaican citizen, like me, needs a visa needs a visa needs a visa needs a visa to travel to our final court, when the solution to putting that right lies right here in our hands in this chamber, whether sitting as the House of Representatives or the Senate. And Mr. Speaker, access to justice is a critical issue. Right now, the vast majority of Jamaicans don't have a final court. You need a visa to go to UK as a litigant, and the cost of litigating a case in England come up to many, literally tens of millions of dollars. It is not an accessible court for the majority of our people. And when you look at what the CCJ has done for our Caribbean sister countries that have acceded to its jurisdiction as a final court, whereas in Jamaica you have a mere handful of cases going there each year, sometimes 2, sometimes 5, sometimes 1. Those countries have multiple appeals that are being heard. Their laws are being interpreted and applied. It brings tremendous economic value to have an accessible final court because it increases the rule of law and certainty in how economic transactions are conducted. So while our foreign direct investment is falling, look at what's happening in Guyana, for example, where they're growing at nearly 50% because of their oil and gas industry. They have the CCJ as their final court, and they have massive investment in their oil and gas industry. And the same is true of other jurisdictions in the Caribbean which have acceded to the CCJ. Mr. Speaker, if we undertake that assessment as recommended by Mr. Siaga, the outcome is clear. Yes. The government and opposition will at last have found common ground. This could be the year when the historic and empowering institution of a Caribbean final court, originally conceptualized by none other than former Prime Minister Hugh Shearer and his cabinet colleagues back in 1970, comes to finally be acceded to by Jamaica, and justice at the highest level becomes accessible to all Jamaicans. Prime Minister, you have a duty in this budget debate to deliver a long-awaited explanation to the country as to why you and your government do not support the position that the opposition confidently shares with 3 of your former leaders. I now move to the content of the constitutional reform bill now in Parliament. In our view, it is fatally flawed. First of all, its mechanism for appointing the new president effectively places that power in the hands of the prime minister of the day. And that is a highly undesirable further concentration of power in the head of government. And I do not want such an awesome power when I become prime minister. It should be done in a more democratic and accountable way. Mr. Speaker, the bill would modify the bill would also modify the composition of the Senate to remove the opposition's ability to stand in the way of oppressive changes to entrenched constitutional protections. We do not support that. Mr. Speaker, the bill has also failed to include desirable accountability mechanisms to enhance the governance of the country, in particular, an impeachment procedure for delinquent parliamentarians who bring the office of this House into disrepute, and a recall procedure for non-performing MPs. Mr. Speaker, we can't support the bill in its current form, and we do not support a phased approach to the reform. The next PNP government will pursue a fully participatory process of engagement with the public. First of all, to design the reform process itself, because the process is important. And the process that they followed, which really tinkered with consultation, but the committee that they set up, they appointed everybody except for the two that we appointed, and so on. That has not left the people of Jamaica feeling engaged and respected by the process. If you're going to deal with constitutional reform, you have to bring everybody on board and really address the issues. And then the reform recommendations will be dealt with through this constitutional participatory process. There is a lot to discuss and settle. Many Jamaicans want the right to elect their president. Many Jamaicans want the right to elect their president. Many want term limits. Many want fixed election dates. We need a fulsome discussion on how our diaspora can play a role in governance in the country. They support the economy, they support the people who live here, but they have no say in the governance of the country. What mechanism should the Constitution provide for them? That's an issue. We need to deal with the rights of our indigenous groups, the Maroons in particular, in relation to the land that they've occupied for centuries and which was guaranteed to them by treaty with the United Kingdom. All of these issues need to be addressed as part of the constitutional reform. Mr. Speaker, I turn to the issue of Portmore. The current arrangements with respect to the governance of Portmore, emerged out of a highly consultative and democratic process, led by the people of Portmore themselves. We feel strongly that the people of Portmore must be the ones to decide whether they want to give up their status as a city municipality or not. After all, Portmore enjoys unique participatory governance innovations, such as they get to directly...
Welcome back to our listeners on Caribbean Radio HD. We know you went for a break. You're listening to the leader of opposition, Mark Golding, giving his contribution to the budget presentation in the Parliament in Jamaica, Kingston Garden House.
Feature. There is no other municipality which directly elects its mayor. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, a fundamental change which would deprive them of those rights should not be foisted on them by the government of the day. It must not be used as a backhanded device either to adjust electoral boundaries. It must not be used as a backhanded device to adjust electoral boundaries. Where is the member for Southwest St. Catherine? Where is he? Because he is the one. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Present. There's a point of order.
My point, Mr. Speaker, I'm standing on a point of order. I am a resident of Portmore. No, I'm not going to say it. I am a resident of Portmore. And I have to say, the leader of opposition is misleading the House. My member of parliament is a member of my member of parliament. I am able to vote for a member of parliament, and I am not able to vote for a mayor.
I don't know what you're talking about, member. I don't know what you're talking about. But the Local Governance Act provides for the election of the mayor of the city municipality of Port. Well, I'm not talking about her. Mr. Speaker.
Members.
Mr. Speaker.
Members. Members, we are still in this house, and we are asking that we conduct ourselves in a way I will rule according to how it is supposed to be done. The leader of the opposition is on his feet. A point of order is raised. I cannot tell you what the point of order is until we hear. So allow me to rule accordingly. You may continue, sir.
Mr. Speaker, it is a fact that the people of Portmore have the right to elect the mayor of the city municipality directly. There was a separate ballot in the local government elections in February last year. They voted for their councillor and they voted separately for their mayor. And we are saying that for them to be deprived of that right.
Mr. Speaker, again, the leader of the opposition is misleading the people of Jamaica. I voted in the local government election, and I was only able to vote for a councillor. There was no separate ballot to vote for a mayor.
Mr. Speaker, I cannot speak to the particular circumstances of that member. I am making a general point, an accurate general point. She must know why she can't vote. Mr. Speaker, I wish to move on, if I may. Mr. Speaker, the approach being taken by this government to the establishment of Portmore as a parish, the approach being taken by this government to the establishment of Portmore as a parish is a dangerous incursion into long-settled processes for re-establishing electoral boundaries. The act that was passed, which establishes the Portmore parish boundary, does not integrate with the existing electoral boundaries. The Constitution does not allow constituency or divisional boundaries to span parish boundaries. So it will necessitate a realignment of the constituency and electoral boundaries to align with the parish. Mr. Speaker, the gerrymandering motives behind this initiative were publicly expressed by a former member of the cabinet of this government and have never been refuted. Never. Mr. Speaker, we strenuously argued and then voted against the legislation, primarily because the legislated boundaries of that new parish will necessitate realigning several constituency and divisional electoral boundaries without the settled processes of the Electoral Commission of Jamaica having first been engaged and in violation of the requirements of the Constitution. Profound concerns with this approach have also been raised by the present and a former chairman of the Electoral Commission, by a former director of elections, all of whom have made it clear that if the implementation of the legislation is not halted, it will result in a constitutional crisis. Mr. Chairman, the chairperson of the People's National Party has written to the minister with responsibility for local government, in whose name the bill was tabled and who piloted the legislation through this House, to seek certain assurances in this regard. None have been forthcoming. Mr. Speaker, since 1980, Jamaica moved to establish an electoral system in which important decisions to do with constituency boundaries are vested in the ECJ, which has bipartisan representation. The convention since then has been that decisions which result from the processes of the CCJ being followed are implemented with bipartisan support in this House. This institutional innovation has contributed greatly to the elimination of political violence in the country. It is very sad to see this government going down a path that will undermine this transformational national achievement. And I urge the Prime Minister to ensure that as part of his legacy to Jamaica, this inconceived legislation is not brought into effect. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, in the meantime, yesterday, we filed suit in the Constitutional Court to strike down the legislation. We regard the pursuit of this legislation as a dangerous affront to Jamaica's democracy, which must be vigorously resisted by all lawful means at our disposal. Mr. Speaker, in the 80-year history of electoral politics in our country, I have never heard any Prime Minister before this one, whether PNP or JLP, declaring in an ominous tone that the opposition must not return to power. That injunctive statement, repeated several times in recent weeks, carries a veiled threat to our democracy. The emergence of this threat was already presaged by previous unconstitutional conduct, like procuring pre-signed letters of resignation when appointing senators, like putting the newly appointed Chief Justice on probation, and the attempted legislative gerrymandering of the electoral boundaries of Portmore. The narrative that this government must stay in power only smacks of desperation. And it is an imminent danger to everything that Jamaicans have fought for over the centuries. Such statements foster that feeling of unease, the most uncomfortable feeling that the will of the people may be undermined. No politician or government should set that tone in our democracy. I am putting the Jamaican people on alert. I am putting the Jamaican people on alert to protect the most cherished right fought for by our people, which is the right to choose their government, to vote out the one which has proved that it is no longer deserving of respect. That is a right they have. Mr. Speaker, the Office of Political Ombudsman needs to be reestablished as an independent institution and separated from the Electoral Commission of Jamaica. It was an unwise and unsuccessful experiment to make the ECJ double up as a political ombudsman. Last year's local government elections in February 2024 and 2 contested divisional by-elections show that there is still a need for an independent officer with a specific mandate to adjudicate and rule on violations of the political code of conduct. And Mr. Speaker, we are already seeing manifestations on the ground of conduct that suggests that we need that office to be in place right now. Mr. Speaker, the role of adjudicating disputed issues of fact about whether or not the political code of conduct has been violated is an intrinsically controversial role in which the ECJ, an institution that is built on consensus, should not involve itself. We call for the political ombudsman to be re-established as a separate independent institution. Mr. Speaker, I turn to the fight against corruption. In the debate on the bill establishing the Integrity Commission, Prime Minister Holness said, and I quote, "As a politically independent country, we could have achieved much more were it not for corruption in many forms. Revenue leakage due to corrupt practices, misuse of public funds, and the overall perception of pervasive corruption, all of which have served to compromise the flow of investment into our country." End of quote. Then he continued, and I quote, "The Economic Growth Council, which he had established, has also recently identified corruption as a significant retardant to growth." End of quote. There is no doubt that a major factor why, notwithstanding all the economic reforms implemented by Jamaica since 2013, growth remains elusive. Mr. Prime Minister, you signaled it. Corruption. Corruption is a big factor in that. This helps to explain why net direct investment in 2023 at US $376.5 million is way below, less than half, what it was in 2015, when it was US $926.5 million. Corruption remains a scourge on national development. The siphoning off of funds and depriving our people of resources for investments in better schools, hospitals, roads, and other infrastructure. It affects everybody in a very real way in their daily lives. Corruption diverts resources from intended purposes and therefore reduces such investments. Mr. Speaker, as Minister of Justice, I developed the Integrity Commission legislation out of a determination to strengthen Jamaica's anti-corruption framework, to reduce the prevalence of corruption in the country. I brought the legislation to Parliament, and it went through a rigorous review of an extensive Joint Select Committee process. After the change of government in 2016, the legislation was ultimately passed by this government in 2017 and was brought into effect in 2018. All the commissioners and senior officials of the Commission have been appointed during the tenure of this government. The Integrity Commission is a vital institution. It needs to be protected from attempts, current and other attempts, to weaken or dismantle it. It is a relatively new institution, and it is our duty as parliamentarians to nurture and support it, ensuring that it has the resources and the legislative support it needs to carry out its anti-corruption mandate fairly and fearlessly. Mr. Speaker, the next PNP government will ensure that it has the resources it needs to do its work effectively. We will also enhance its tools by passing legislation for unexplained wealth orders. Unexplained wealth orders. That was an agreed commitment. That was an agreed commitment that, of CMOC, the Crime Monitoring Oversight Committee, which this government has reneged on. We will amend also the Act to require public, and I'm talking about the Integrity Commission Act, we will amend that Act to require the public disclosure of government contracts. It was never intended that the practice of the Contractor General to publish all government contracts on a website so people could see who is getting them and what they're for and how much money is involved. that the Integrity Commission Act should prevent that. To me, it is a flawed interpretation of the section, which has led to that decision being taken, but it has been taken. We need to fix it. Mr. Speaker, on a related note, we will reintroduce the system of having the opposition appoint chairpersons of the various committees of Parliament tasked with monitoring the performance of government and holding the executive to account. Mr. Speaker, I know that when you're in government, having the opposition chair committees is not always convenient politically. You know, it sometimes gives rise to uncomfortable things being said or found. But it's very important for the democracy that the cleansing sunlight of proper independent scrutiny is brought to the affairs of state. And to have the government chair these committees undermines that. We know that that innovation of having opposition members chair the committees started with the JLP under Bruce Golding. When PNP came to office in 2011, we kept it. And they chaired the committees at that time. And in fact, it was kept up until the 2020 election. And it wasn't in their manifesto to change it. But soon thereafter, they changed it. And it's only two of the committees, the PAC and the PAAC, that the opposition now chair. But all of the others do not. And we have not seen any evidence of any improved performance in those committees since the change was made. Mr. Speaker, the SSL scandal has rocked Jamaica's financial system and tarnished our image with investors. We again demand that all reports into what happened at SSL, including the Kroll report and the temporary manager Ken Tomlinson's report, be released to the public so that the sunlight of transparency can bring a better understanding of how our sprint icon, Usain Bolt, and hundreds of others got fleeced in SSL. Mr. Speaker, I commit to establishing a commission of inquiry into that matter, focusing also on the regulatory history and how it is that a licensed institution was able to carry down so many investors for so long. It is unprecedented in Jamaica. This was nothing to do with the economic issues of facing other dealers or the market generally. This was a specific problem in that institution. It should have been addressed and it wasn't. Mr. Speaker, the opposition and the wider society remain very concerned about the Prime Minister's situation. He has been the subject of extensive investigations by the Integrity Commission. The report resulting from that investigation contained findings which the opposition and many Jamaicans find troubling. The report called for further investigation by the FID, the Financial Investigation Division, and Tax Administration Jamaica. The Prime Minister has responded by taking the Commission to court, seeking to strike down the legislation itself on which Jamaica's anti-corruption framework depends. In the meantime, the Prime Minister's statutory declarations of assets, liabilities, and income for the relevant years remain uncertified by the Commission. Mr. Speaker, this is an untenable situation and it goes to the heart of governance in the country. Given that the Prime Minister has clearly decided to try to ride this out and lead his party into the upcoming general elections, Jamaicans will use that opportunity of those elections to decide whether to allow this highly undesirable state of affairs to continue. Mr. Speaker, we are in a year of national decision-making. It is an election year. To my fellow Jamaicans, I say this. Later this year, you will have an opportunity to choose your government in free and fair elections. We will be championing positive change. We have already begun in this budget debate. We will be coming to you with more plans and details over the next few weeks. Examine our policies and decide for yourselves. My fellow Jamaicans, do not get distracted. Do not be intimidated by anyone who seems to want to rob us of our democratic way of life. Jamaica doesn't belong either to the PNP or the JLP. It belongs to the people of Jamaica, who every 4 to 5 years determine who they want to lead in government. The people of Jamaica are the title holders of this nation. When the time comes, we will work on behalf of all Jamaicans to build a Jamaica where everyone can live, work, raise families, do business, and retire. We envision a Jamaica where everyone can thrive, live their dreams, and be happy. We champion the building of a Jamaica that is nice for everybody, not just a few. We champion the building of a Jamaica where God is at the center and our values and attitudes are conducive to harmony, peace, and the pursuit of happiness. We champion a Jamaica where there is protection for the vulnerable and where justice flows like a clean and pure river. A Jamaica where you can imagine the life you want and be equipped with the tools to build that life. We come to champion a Jamaica where you can live in dignity and hold your head up high, where you feel content, respected, and truly blessed to live a way hard. That's right. That is what a PNP administration under my leadership will set out to do from day one in government. We will champion these positive changes. I seal my commitment as a champion of positive change with these words. I pledge my heart forever to serve with humble pride this shining homeland ever, so long as earth abides. I pledge my heart this island, as God and faith shall live, my work, my strength, my love, and my loyalty to give. O green isle of the Indies, Jamaica strong and free, my vow and loyal promises, O heartland, 'tis to thee. Mr. Speaker, God bless Jamaica and all who call her home.
So you were just listening to the leader of opposition making his contribution to the budget debate 2025-2026. You're listening to Caribbean Radio HD. And of course, you've been trying to call. Hello, good evening.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bell.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, man. I'm only want to commend the leader of the opposition. I've been watching debate since I was 14.
Yes.
And the only person I've seen in the opposition deliver a good debate is Michael Manley, but he's ready for the Prime Minister now.
He's ready.
So I have to go home and campaign for my two candidates, Dr. Harton.
Yeah.
And Miranda Wellington to form the government now. I am impressed today by Golden.
All right. You're impressed by the opposition leader today. Thank you for calling.
Yep. He touched every point that I have on my list. Especially the housing trust money.
You like yours or him deal with housing trust?
Yeah, man. I'm so upset about it.
All
the Prime Minister taking away the money lending big investors. So
where you calling from?
I'm impressed by that. You know.
Where you calling from?
I listen every word. I'm listening every word, so I'm convinced now we can leave.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, right.
All right. You're listening to the Collin Bell Show on Caribbean Radio HD and, of course, Portland Spice TV. Want to thank everybody for sticking and staying with us. The Prime Minister will speak on Thursday. We won't be on Thursday. But the Finance Minister speaks on Tuesday. So we are going to be on and get on Tuesday. So we are going to be carrying this Finance Minister live on Tuesday. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Collin Bell Show.
Hey, Sir Collin, quickly. One of the things that impressed me so much that I'm saying to myself, a young person, the housing part where a young person under 35 can get a house with deposit, because I've experienced that where persons want to buy a house. Recently, I want to buy a house, and you have to put up the money where the house costs like 18 million, so you want to buy it to 18 or 20 million.
Yeah.
Young persons have to put up the deposit money now, like a 300 to pay all the grill and all these things. Look at it's one of the gems.
And you heard him saying that he's going to move the cost of land from the money.
Yeah, look here. I think the housing are the biggest winner. The biggest winner. It was a great speech. It was a great speech. And I like how he deal with Delroy Chuck. I'm a justice minister and I one line put the dog bite law. and them don't know about the public defense thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just look here. I watched it from start to finish, and it was the points that I was waiting for me. I said, "Oh, no, bring them points and bring them at the last."
All right, sir.
Ministerial, prime ministerial.
Respect. Caribbean Radio HD. Good evening. Hello. Good evening.
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Welcome to the Collin Bell Show. How you doing?
Oh my God! For a long time, I'm here listening, and I just couldn't move until it finished. It's the best.
Okay. Well, Tuesday evening we are going to be carrying the finance minister, because the finance minister will close the budget next week Tuesday evening. So we'll be carrying her speech as well.
Oh my God! Okay. Yeah, man. He need to campaign for her.
All right. So yes, man. Where you calling from? Mississippi. Thanks for calling the Collin Bell Show, Caribbean Radio HD. Bless you.
You're welcome.
All right. 876-804-7072. 350-654-7944. This is the Collin Bell Show. We're live on Caribbean Radio HD. Sam.
Good evening, Mr. Bell. Comrade Bell.
Wagwan, how was the speech? What do you think about the speech?
Michael Mann incarnated
into
Mark Gordon.
How will you say? Out of 10, with 10 be the best and 1 be the worst.
No, man. Go ahead on 10. Go ahead on 10.
No, we are marking out of 10. Where you score him?
10 plus 10 plus 10, 20 plus 10.
All right, so I hear you.
10 plus.
What were the strong points?
Listen me.
What were the high points from the speech?
All right. I'm an old man, so I go and think the future for the youth them, right? See the housing trust part for young people, marginalized people, and people who pay this high rent. That part is for them. And I just send a text to Miss Burchell. That's it. Those segments.
Yeah.
She put out a template and send to the various social media broadcasts like Andrew Steve, all of those.
Wait,
pay for them to carry it.
Yeah.
Right? Regularly. Throughout them program.
All right, sir.
Because the young peoples, right?
Mm-hmm.
Need to hear it.
Definitely.
The young people need to hear it.
All right, sir.
Right?
And they need to understand it as well.
They need to understand it as well. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because Winter's almost Nana House is the biggest human to benefit now.
Yeah, man. Shelter over here is the biggest thing. Shelter.
Okay.
All right, my brother. All right, Sam. Look more.
Yeah, man.
804-7072. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Collins, Jamaican mama.
Wagwan girl out of the UK.
No, man. I'm in Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, you know Ohio?
Jamaican.
Okay.
Yes.
Welcome.
Yes. All right. So the segment about the housing trust with like for young people.
Yes.
Even last night I was talking to the young lady that rented my downstairs of my house. For them to get even a 1-bedroom is 19 million. 19,
Yeah.
For one, and you know what a 1-bedroom structure look like in Jamaica?
Yes, man.
It's nothing. So how are they going to come up with 8 million? It's ridiculous. Trust me.
Well, you hear the plans.
Huh?
You heard the plans.
Yeah, but I hope they go through with it.
Come on.
You know what I'm saying? Because I'm ready to go home back to Jamaica. I'm serious.
Those are solid commitment from the housing trust. Remember, it's Michael Manley brought housing trust in place, and that was brought to make affordable housing for Jamaicans. So, yes.
But no, it's not like that.
And that's why I hear him say, under his stewardship, Housing Trust will not be building any house selling for all those amount of millions, 30 million and all them things.
Ridiculous. Trust me.
All right.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
All
Thank
right,
you. Good
Jamaican
program.
Mama. Blessings. 804-7072. Good evening.
SHACKA to the field.
Bless up, man. One love. Wagwan.
Yes, man. I love the speech, man, and I love how they deal with the housing. You understand me?
Yes.
Because let me tell you something. Right now, the average Jamaican can't buy a 2-bedroom. When you look at it, you see all the private investor coming and selling a 2-bedroom house with a 12 by 12 bedroom for $21 million. Where the average Jamaican can buy those houses. You understand me? You understand? When you come on up on the beach again, how comes the Chinese them down there locking out people out of our beach? Right now, we cannot find a good beach. There's one time when you could have come from Portugal, rise come right down and you could have looked and see the water how blue it is. Now you can't see it up the high-rising building. Everybody, the man sell out the whole of the beachfront. You can't see the beach no more. The people don't have no beach to go to. You understand me? It don't make no sense. It don't make no sense. When they come out to the hospital, what take them so long to give Falmouth Hospital an X-ray machine? A young man died the other day in Falmouth Hospital because they could not get an X-ray done. Wow. You understand? By the time it reached man to go be, the man died. And now we're going to put up an X-ray machine. You understand me?
All right,
Come on, man.
All right.
We have
Thanks
to get
for the
them
call.
out, man. Get them out.
Blessings. 804-7072. Good evening.
Yes, sir. Good morning. This is 40 Flat calling out of Senton.
Senton, Wagwan.
Yes, man. Me well blessed, man. Me well happy I hear what they go on, man. Me no come out of me house for morning, you know. Because me there, me no want to miss me, brethren. You understand me? No come out of me house for morning. The Prime Minister get a big sticky. And my Prime Minister that.
All
you
right,
understand?
Yeah,
man. Blessed. 40 Flat say that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
804-7072. Good evening.
Yes, sir. I want.
Me there, man. Where I say?
I just go to the TV. I never want to move in a virgin.
Never want to move.
I tell you, man.
Yes, man.
I see the Prime Minister get some licking in face and stop skin it up. You understand?
You get serious.
I tell you, saying get some licking in face there.
Well, we are wait his presentation on Thursday.
Yeah, man, I think him done for, man. Him done for.
Well, let's hear what he's coming with on Thursday. Don't
you see
write
from
him
today,
off.
man. You see from today.
Yeah.
If the Jamaican never rate my goal, him ratings gone up from today. I tell you that.
They say him ratings gone up today.
What you mean? A landslide we are saying now.
All right, my brother. Respect.
Yeah, man. I do right a push up, man. You need a revamp of Jamaica.
Yes.
Going forward, man, and him outlining it.
Yes, man, he did well.
And I say especially in touch the housing thing the way, yeah, man, cut the budget the way they might take out of it, money the man.
Yeah, I'm saying
stop
the $11.4 billion. Yes.
Yeah, make your house can cheaper for people, man.
All right, caller, thanks much.
Yeah, man, big up yourself.
Yeah, man. 305-654-7944, Caribbean Radio, good evening.
Yes, my brethren.
Talk to me.
PNP do the most greatest thing at Jamaica. You know? Them bring in summer. They bring in youth core. They bring in everything. So, next, not less than that, you know. They don't say that youth that grow at Jamaica, right?
Who that?
Where we are going to turn Golden, man.
Golden born and grow at Jamaica. Yeah, man.
I go and ask you a question. I want to know how much you know. Which part of Jamaica can grow?
Him grew up on the campus up at UA. Augustown and them places.
Yeah, man, in go place in college, come on. My father did professor for UC.
For UA, then a UA? Same UA?
Yeah, man. And him have a sister named Anna.
All right, you know him well.
Yeah, me used to go in yard. Me used to take one guitar. My sister listen to a laugh. So me used to take guitar. A good youth.
All right, sir. Respect.
Blessed, man. I good thing in my door. Man, do good.
All right, sir. Enough respect. 350 654-7944. 876-804-7072. Those are the numbers to call. You just heard from the leader of opposition giving his contribution, making his contribution to the budget presentation. Hello, good evening, caller.
Good evening.
Welcome to the Collin Bell Show. Talk to me.
Yes, this Princess Davis Collin Bell.
Yes, this is Collin
I was
Bell.
listening to the to Mark Golin, but I'm just saying to myself, I just love the way that he never stopped campaigning. He's the hardest working man in the business. I really like the things that when he mentioned about the urgent care, you know.
Yes.
But my little take on Jamaica itself, they are so divided that they will never be able to see that they have to come together to make that republic that he wants to have. Because he's the only one talking about the republic that they want to have. That the other party is not talking about it. You know? Yeah. But I'm just giving him kudos today, man, because his presentation is, you know, it's up. It's up.
All right. Thanks for the call. Want to say good evening to Sister Collin Brown, Tanya, good evening, Velma, good evening, Babette, good evening, all the people, Marcia, good evening, all the people in the chat room at Caribbean Radio HD. George Burke, Mark Golden is the best person to lead Jamaica at this time. The man's just brilliant. This is the man for the job. One PNP, one Mark Golden. 804-7072. Good evening.
Brethren, good afternoon.
Welcome to the Collin Bell Show. Talk to me.
All right, Collin. This is a man from Jamaica. All right? Look here now. What I want you to do, you know, I want you to limit Marlon Morgan for your program, you know, brethren. Because
limit who?
Marlon Morgan, it's a man with trading Peter Bunting and the man in the brethren. You have a limit him, you know.
Yeah, man. Then you know, so I limit him when in command.
You know, see, yeah, I almost limit him, I almost ban him.
No, I'm not going to ban nobody. I'm not ban him. If you want to call him, free to call. Once we have a respectful discussion, I have no problem talking to Marlon Morgan.
All right. The next thing I'm going to do. All right, you see, some of your podcasts we have on TikTok.
Yeah.
Those things should be on like a town cry, park up a porty, no, not a beer, buff beer. Make the market with it, then you can hear them.
Yeah.
Because on these programs, they're limited in a brethren.
Yeah.
See what I mean? So if you have a town cry, like, you know, the port, if it's certain the market here in night town.
Yes.
A buff beer
I understand you.
On a Friday.
Oh, that's so people can hear it.
Yeah, part of the band for how I saw make it then go on top, but they hear it in the bedroom. Kind of make sense. Every listen to you and me know what go on. And then now you know. Cause look here. Mm-hmm. You see what Marlon Morgan is doing?
Yeah.
The PNP needs someone to do that too.
Okay. No, but the PNP don't need nobody to grow and tell like Marlon tell a whole
No, to beat down the lies them.
Okay.
To beat down the lies them.
Well, there's a communication team, you know, so they want to just get more active.
Yeah, brother. Raymond Price Philip and that.
All right.
So then, but anyway, bless up. That man I know from Port is still at talk to you.
Big up yourself, Barry.
All right, Benji.
All right, cool. Yeah, man. Once again, we want to welcome each and every one to the Collin Bell Show. We are live on Caribbean Radio HD, fresh on the heels of the budget contribution from the leader of opposition, Mark Jefferson Golden, made his budget contribution today. Thursday, it is going to be Prime Minister Andrew Holness making his contribution to the budget, and the budget will be closed on Tuesday, that's the 25th, by Honorable Favour Williams, Minister of Finance. We are going to be here next week, Tuesday, so we're going to be carrying Sister Favour's speech. We don't expect it to be as long as the one that she did last Tuesday, but as the wrapping up, we are going to be carrying that live right here on Caribbean Radio HD. Just taking your calls, hearing what you think about the speech. It was a speech that lasts for, let me tell you, somewhere about 4 hours and 20 to 30 minutes, somewhere thereabout. No, it started at 2 o'clock. So it was about 3 hours and 20 minutes, or somewhere about 3 hours. That's how long the speech lasts. And we heard a number of things. I heard the culture and the creative industry spoke about that extensively. And as I've been telling you here, that the next People's National Party administration will be investing heavily in the culture and the creative industry so as to get economic growth. He also spoke about education. He spoke about healthcare and the fact that we don't have proper healthcare in Jamaica. We cut a lot of ribbons, and he's saying that there are a lot of earners to be cut. So as soon as we change the government, we're going to stop cutting ribbons and start cutting all those earners. They spoke about the public hospital with 4 of its operating theater having mold in them. And that comes on the heels of lack of maintenance. So lots of things that he touched on. He also touched on the Prime Minister's position being untenable because the Prime Minister of Jamaica, is statutory filing has not been certified for the last 3 years by the Integrity Commission. In fact, the Prime Minister is under investigation for illicit enrichment. What the hell can go so? What can go so? The Prime Minister is under investigation by the Integrity Commission for illicit enrichment, and he's still planning to lead his party into the next general election. The leader of opposition is saying that is untenable and that should not be happening. There are other members of the government who are also under investigation for illicit enrichment. So we have to look at those things. We have to look at the fact that the economy has not been growing for the last 8 years, not been growing over about maybe 1.8%. We haven't had growth of over 2% since this administration has been in government, yet they say that the economy is doing well. So he touched on a number of things, and he also strengthened some of the things that Julian Robinson spoke about on Thursday. Yeah, Julian Robinson, he made his presentation on Thursday. So it is the budget season, and it is also the election season. The opposition leader also touched on the Portmore issue. And we heard Juliet Cuthbert-Flynn, Olympian Juliet Cuthbert-Flynn, rose on a point of order because the opposition leader was saying that the people of Portmore, they vote directly for their mayor. And Juliet Cuthbert-Flynn know that that is true. So how the hell she get up on a point of order about she never vote? I know you're the only person live out Portmore, Juliet. You are one of about 300,000 people that lives in Portmore. And Portmore have a mayor that is directly elected. Yeah. The people of Portmore vote for the mayor, unlike any other parish where it is the councillors who determine who the mayor is. So like in Portland, we have 9 councillors. They are the ones who choose the mayor. In Portmore, the people of Portmore gets a separate ballot to vote for who the mayor is. So in the last local government election, it was Markland Edwards against just forget the mayor name, you know. Just slip me. But the mayor of Portmore, Leon Thomas. So it was Markland Edwards against Leon Thomas for the mayor of Portmore. So when you vote for your councillor, you get a separate ballot. Say who you want to be the mayor. So how Juliet Cuthbert-Flynn get up on a point of order? Juliet, I don't know, you make yourself sound like a clown. Because everybody in Jamaica and the diaspora knows that Portmore mayor is directly elected by the people. So I don't know what she's trying to push forward. What kind of rubbish was that? Just want to also remind you that to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have our social media platforms. Portland Spice TV is my YouTube channel. We're asking you to Check it out and subscribe to it. We are also on TikTok at Collin SHACKA Bell on TikTok. Every Tuesday and Wednesday, we are here on Caribbean Radio HD. Make certain you join the family, Caribbean HD family. If you have not joined that family yet, Zeno Radio FM, Bro Gary. Check it out, Caribbean Radio HD at Zeno FM. Hello, good evening.
Hello?
Yes, good evening.
Good evening. You know, something I must point out, and people, especially like Juliet Cuthbert, where she lives does not fall in the municipal of Portmore. And if you don't live in the municipal of Portmore, you cannot vote directly for the mayor.
Right. So
and this is what she needs to make clear. She lives outside of the municipal of Portmore.
Right.
So you don't vote for the mayor if you live on Dumbly Hole Road over by Phoenix or by Caribbean Estate.
Or Caribbean Estate, you don't. Right.
Right. That's not the municipal of Portmore. So if you want to vote for the mayor of Portmore, you have to live in the municipal of Portmore. And she knows this.
She knows. She's just trying to make trouble. She knows exactly how it works. That there are some.
And she's being disingenuous.
There are some of the areas that is outside of the municipality, so they don't get to vote. Right.
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 The municipal of Portmore is what you call like the 100-man, the Waterford, the Edgewater,
the Garvey
original Portmore,
the Independent City,
the Independent Cities, and
the
all
Portsmouth,
the Portsmouth. That is the original Portmore.
Brayton.
Exactly.
Greater Portmore.
Exactly.
Right. I know the place well.
You understand? I live in this place from 1976.
You live in Portmore?
No, well, no longer live in Portmore.
Oh, you used to live in Portmore.
I actually leave from Eastern Kingston, went to Portmore when I was actually 3 years old.
Oh.
1357 Coolshade Road in Waterford.
Sure.
Right by the 9 furlong. These are places that I trod as a youth until we moved to Gregor Park into the Meadowvale area.
Okay.
So when I hear people talk about Portmore, and some people who go, I categorize anybody who moved to Portmore into the 2000s are not really from Portmore, frankly speaking.
I hear you,
know,
sir.
but
that's where you live. You used to trod Portmore too, yeah.
You know, Grange Lane. When I look at Grange Lane, back in my days, Grange, by the Independence, the gas station, the Shell station, right under the tree, it was all TNPs going back there. I remember when hurricane will hit and water gone, we would have to go to Caymanas Park to catch water or go by Bernard Lodge to get water.
Oh, okay, my boss. All right.
When there is no water supply and even so forth. So when we look at Portmore today and what Portmore has developed back in my days in Portmore as a young child, Portmore was just, I mean, even frankly speaking, when I used to walk from Waterford to Gregor Park, that used to be a day-by-day walking for me. And today, I look at it like I'm going a journey.
Oh, okay. All right, my brother, enough respect.
All right, take care.
All right, Farmer Portmore, man. 804-70 72305-654-7944. Those are the numbers to call. This is the Collin Bell Show, and it's on the eve right after the leader of opposition made his budget presentation. What do you think about the presentation of the leader of the opposition? We carried it live. Not the entire thing, but we carried the last 2 hours right here on Caribbean Radio HD. Once we joined, we joined the parliament so that the people in the diaspora can hear live for themselves Mark Golding. And Tuesday evening coming, we are going to be carrying Honorable Favour Williams. She's the Minister of Finance, and we are going to be carrying her contribution to the budget. She opened the budget and she closes the budget. That's how it is in Jamaica. The Minister of Finance open and close. So the Minister of Finance, then the Shadow Minister of Finance, then the Leader of Opposition, then the Prime Minister, and then the Minister of Finance closes the budget presentation. We're talking about Jamaican politics, Jamaican governance. That's what we're talking about. And of course, we implore you to tune in to these things so you can hear and understand for yourself. Chris, you have $72,000? If you have $72,000, you can pay down on a pro box, you know, Chris. Yeah, man, you can pay down on a pro box. It was a good evening. And the presentations thus far has been spirited. And we hear the people coming out and laying down what their plans are, because this is an election year in Jamaica. This year, barring any foreseen, any unforced disaster, we are going to be having a general election. It is the PNP versus the GLP. And of course, the GLP has been in government since February of 2016. They have been running the country. So if there's good in that time, you have to give the GLP credit. And if there's bad, you have to hold them responsible. So if you have not heard the budget presentation, it is on different YouTube channels all over the place. You can go back and get a look on it and see what is happening. We are coming up to the end of the show. I think we might even be on a break on Caribbean Radio at this time. I think we are on a break. We'll be coming back shortly. But the opposition leader also spoke to the economy and the fact that the government, they are saying, due to Hurricane Beryl, that is why we are in a recession. But the opposition leader pointed out that there are several Caribbean islands that got hit harder than us, and they have recovered from the hurricane, and they have been growing by over 4%. Why Jamaica didn't grow when you said that our economy is resilient? Well, coming out of an interview with Julian Robinson on Saturday morning, Julian said the economy is not as resilient as they want to make it out to be. But we are Jamaicans, we are resilient people, so we have to be strong. Once again, you're listening to the Collin Bell Show live on Caribbean Radio HD and on Portland Spice TV. We welcome you to share, subscribe, and click the notification bell on the channel. We also have our TikTok channel that we want you to follow us at TikTok, Collin SHACKA Bell at TikTok. I want to say thanks to all the people in the chat room. Thanks to all the people who called. Yes, it has been another solid evening of disseminating information to my people. Here's hoping that you'll join us tomorrow evening when we'll be bringing on different guests to look at this budget presentation and to preempt the Prime Minister coming with his presentation on Thursday. And exciting times ahead, because if I know Andrew Wellness, he's going to come hard. He's going to come hard on Thursday. So we're listening out for Thursday, where the Prime Minister will make his presentation to the Parliament. And we're expecting to hear from him. But Prime Minister, I just want to say to you that you must speak to us about three things. Three things I want to hear from the Prime Minister. We want to hear about your statutory filing. We need to hear about that. Yeah? We want to hear about growth. You must talk to us about growth. So you have to talk to us about your statutory filing. You have to talk to us about growth, the growth agenda. And then you have to talk to us about calling the general election. May the good Lord continue to bless and keep you all. Make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up his light and give you his peace. Until we meet tomorrow evening for the Collin Bell Show right here on Caribbean Radio HD and Portland Spice TV. Chris, we say we're not going to hear about that. And Gilly saying he wants to hear about the cruel report. Good evening. Hello, good evening.
Good evening to you, man.
Wagwan.
Watch a speech, brother. 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Every 10 out of 10, man. Well-rounded speech, man. Can't get it better than that.
Well.
Right now, I'm just supposed to shiver.
You think so?
It's supposed to have some pampas female. One talk with a pampas.
Andrew come hard.
Okay.
Andrew
With
come.
what? With what? The only thing Andrew can try to break promises now with NHD, you know. I make bag of promises now, when can't fulfill it.
You say, I make bag of promises when can't fulfill?
Then listen, then look here, no, man. All right. Remember saying, no, the man touch on the wages, houses, agriculture, education. The way we're going to grow the country. Him tell you how if when him turn member of parliament, then turn prime minister, him not feel like him supposed to select the head to be the president. The peace supposed to be done by the people. That for sure this man have integrity.
Of course.
That for sure the integrity of the man. That for sure the level of integrity. You know. The man don't want a ceremonial president. The man that elected by the people.
Yes.
The man that show you say when him be prime minister, all board chairman supposed to host by the opposition to keep government member accountable.
Yes.
You can't want better than that. You can't want better than that.
You mean the committee chairman?
So they can't hold go. And that's what we need. We need the opposition also can hold the government accountable at everything what them do.
Yes, sir.
And can show them up.
Yes, sir.
We don't need the gaga. We don't want more gaga in the government, brother, man. Say that the gaga in the government, man.
All right. Respect and thanks for the call. 804-7072. Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Welcome to your program. Welcome to your program.
Turn off the instrument in the background so you can listen to me. There's a massive delay. I'll throw you off. Talk to me now.
All right. You hear me now?
Yes, man.
Well, him come and talk about 10 out of 10. When you team talk from 10, that's a market genius and no positive to the Jamaican people. No cover nothing.
Him not say nothing positive.
Nothing. Because when him talk, we more get money with financing anything him talk. But if it's a talk, we more get money to do what him to do.
So, where the government going to get money to do what they are going to do?
Then the government and the ruling government will have the money.
Then, but if him get into power, if him become prime minister, he might have the money.
Yeah, but him not getting in no prime minister.
No, but
never see that.
But your question of where he's gonna get the money from is a rubbish question.
Yeah, but if we talk, all right. If we talk, him going run them program them a talk about where the money going. We ain't going to benefit the money from do them program. That's what I'm talking about.
But a lot.
That's a talk you gonna do.
A lot of them he mentioned where the money is gonna come from. He did mention where the money is gonna come from for a lot of the things that he talked about.
Yeah. He will never live with the prime minister.
Why?
No, man. Not the little white man and I come no way no Jamaica house here. You see them to Siaga? I definitely go reach back them.
But Siaga was prime minister?
Yeah, but he was prime minister but when PJ come talk about Black Prince. You know, so them do the Siaga, never go back in the house.
Well, Andrew that happened to.
No. Andrew gonna be the leader.
So what you think about Andrew statutory filing not certified? You don't have a problem with that?
Andrew, because they not try use that to get out Andrew.
So you don't think him should have get him statutory filing certified?
Then they deal with it now. The man when they did they hold it up. You know, see fin time done and get rid of him. So who didn't know let it go release it.
Okay, boss. All right.
Yeah. Who did it? But like you raise it still in there. You see all the one named Jeff? The next program there? You see, as long as you call and you labor right, him a cut you.
Eh?
Yeah, if you go in the program, them way the proper. As you call him and you mention about labor right, the man cut you.
No, man, I not cut you off, because labor right now have no argument.
You see, listen what labor officer like on have to listen what the PNP officer.
Yes,
We're
man.
not going nowhere.
Me listen labor right because me listen labor right because I love you when they talk foolishness.
Hey, you love when they talk foolishness.
Yeah, man, because they don't have nothing to talk.
Well, if your party now going away, and you remember me tell you that. And listen on your Thursday.
Yeah, me, I'll listen him.
Of course.
All right.
And then me I go call you and you tell me.
Yeah.
Remember that.
All right.
All right, my boss.
Respect,
All right.
respect. Yeah, man, me no cut off labor right. Labor right now have no argument. No labor right can't debate me. Because once them attack the truth, we're going to beat them because truth is not on their side. History is not on the GLP side. So, me not have to cut off nobody. Tell them to call me once we have a professional, honest, and truthful discussion. I am ready to have that discussion with any member of the Jamaica Labour Party. Because what we are talking about are facts. Yeah, when it's opinion, we talk opinion, but the facts, they can't beat us on. The facts that they have failed to grow the Jamaican economy. Hence, the people of Jamaica are suffering right now. And we're having serious issues. And this is the government that has had the most money to spend, but they have squandered it and spent it foolishly. Yeah, man. All right, peeps. It's been a long day for me. Want to thank everybody for tuning in. Please remember to join us tomorrow evening. We start at 4 Jamaica time, 5 in the US. One love, my people. God bless you.